Alien bullies slap the new human teacher and are shocked to discover she's a deadly martial artist. Dr. Sarah Chen stood in front of the massive glass doors of Zenith Academy and took a deep breath. The building stretched up into the purple sky of Veloria Prime, a tower of silver and light that housed students from 47 different alien species. This was the most famous school in the entire galaxy, where the children of presidents, emperors, and council members came to learn. And Sarah was their first human teacher. She looked down at her simple earth clothes, a white blouse and black pants, and felt suddenly very small. Through the glass she could see students walking past. Some had scales, some had fur, some floated in the air on energy fields. One student had 6 arms. Another looked like a walking tree. Sarah smiled to herself. "Well," she whispered, "here goes everything." Holographic signs floated in the air, pointing to different classrooms in languages Sarah had spent months learning. Students rushed past her, laughing and talking in dozens of different voices, some high and musical, some deep like thunder. A few students stopped to stare at her. Sarah heard whispers, "Is that the human?" Humans were new to the Galactic Council, only 50 years of membership compared to species that had been spacefaring for thousands of years. Most aliens saw humans as cute, harmless primitives who had barely discovered faster-than-light travel. She found her classroom on the 3rd floor. The door read Ancient Earth History and Philosophy, Dr. S. Chen in glowing letters. Sarah touched the panel, and the door slid open. 25 students sat at desks that adjusted automatically to each species' size and shape. They all turned to look at her as she entered. The room fell silent. Sarah walked to the front of the class and placed her tablet on the desk. She turned to face them with a warm smile. "Good morning, everyone. My name is Dr. Sarah Chen, and I'll be teaching you about Earth's history and philosophy. I know many of you are curious about humans, so please feel free to ask questions. I promise I don't bite." Sarah began her lesson, talking about Earth's ancient civilizations, the Egyptians, the Romans, the Chinese dynasties. She showed them pictures of pyramids and the Great Wall. Most students seemed interested, taking notes on their various devices. But 3 students in the back were not paying attention. They were Kraviks, large, reptilian beings that looked like a cross between a dinosaur and a bodybuilder. Their scales were dark green and covered with natural armor plates. Each one stood at least 8 feet tall, with powerful muscles and sharp claws. Kraviks were famous across the galaxy as warriors. Their entire culture was built on strength and dominance. The leader of the 3 was named Draken. He was the biggest, with a scar across his snout and eyes that glowed yellow. He leaned back in his specially reinforced chair and talked loudly to his friends, making no effort to hide his disrespect. "This is boring," Draken said in his deep, rumbling voice. "Why do we need to learn about some primitive planet? Humans only joined the Council 50 years ago. My people had starships when humans still lived in caves." She had dealt with difficult students before during her years teaching at universities on Earth. She knew the best approach was to stay calm and respectful. "Draken, is it?" she said pleasantly. "You're correct that humans are relatively new to space. But Earth's civilizations are actually quite old, over 5,000 years of recorded history. And if your entire civilization is younger than some of our buildings." His friends laughed with him. Several other students shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Some looked at Sarah with pity. Sarah kept her voice calm. "Age doesn't always equal wisdom, Draken. Sometimes younger cultures develop interesting perspectives precisely because they're new. For example, Earth's age calculation is actually different from what you might think. The planet itself is 4.5 billion years old, and even the students who had been whispering stopped. Everyone knew what was about to happen. In Kravik culture, there was a tradition called the teaching slap. When an elder or someone in authority needed to discipline a youngling who was being disrespectful, they would deliver a hard slap across the face. It wasn't meant to seriously injure, just to establish dominance and teach respect. But Kravix had never used it on a human before. Draken walked slowly toward Sarah, his heavy footsteps echoing in the silent room. He looked down at her with contempt. Sarah was only 5 feet 6 inches tall. She barely reached his chest. "You need to learn your place, human," Draken growled. "Let me teach you." Draken's palm hit Sarah's face with enough force to knock down most species. Several students gasped. One of Draken's friends grinned, expecting to see the human teacher on the floor, crying. But Sarah didn't fall. Her head turned with the force of the slap, and for a moment she just stood there. The entire left side of her face was bright red. Slowly, very slowly, she turned her head back to look at Draken, and her eyes had changed. They were still brown, still human, but there was something else there now, something cold and sharp and very, very dangerous. It was the look of a predator, calm and calculating, measuring threat and distance and angle of attack. Draken felt a chill run down his spine. He had never seen a human look like that before. What happened next took less than 2 seconds, but to everyone watching, it seemed to happen in slow motion. Sarah's hand shot out and grabbed Draken's wrist. Her grip was like iron. Before the massive Kravik could react, she stepped to the side, turned her body and pulled. Draken's own momentum and weight worked against him. His feet left the ground. Boom! 8 feet and 400 pounds of Kravik warrior slammed face first into the floor. The impact shook the entire classroom. Before Draken could even think about getting up, Sarah had dropped down, her knee pressed firmly into his back, his arm locked at an angle that would break if he moved. She hadn't hurt him. But everyone in the room could feel it, the potential for violence, hanging in the air like electricity before a storm. Sarah could break his arm with one twist. She could choke him unconscious in seconds. She held complete control. The classroom was frozen in shock. No one breathed. No one moved. Sarah's voice when she spoke was perfectly calm. "On Earth," she said quietly, "we have a saying, walk softly and carry a big stick. It means you should be polite and peaceful but always be ready to defend yourself." She paused. "I just showed you the stick." He had won every fight he'd ever been in. This human teacher had put him on the floor in 2 seconds. Sarah walked calmly back to the front of the classroom. She straightened her blouse and touched her red cheek once, checking for damage. Then she turned back to her students with the same warm smile she'd had at the beginning of class. "Now then," she said pleasantly, "shall we continue our discussion of philosophy? Who can tell me what philosophy means?" Suddenly, red lights began flashing in the corners of the classroom. A robotic voice announced, "Security alert. Physical altercation detected. Headmaster has been notified." Well, I suppose that was inevitable. "Chen," the headmaster's voice echoed in everyone's minds through telepathy. "Please come with us. Draken, you as well. The rest of you, class is dismissed." Did you see that? As Sarah followed the headmaster down the hall, she could hear the whispers spreading through the academy like wildfire. By tomorrow, every student in the school would know. The new human teacher wasn't just smart, she was dangerous. And the real question on everyone's mind was, what else didn't they know about humans? The headmaster's office was located at the very top of Zenith Academy, inside a transparent dome that looked out over the entire city. Elder Kumath floated behind his desk, his jellyfish-like body pulsing with soft purple light. Sarah sat in one chair, and Draken sat in another, much larger chair on the opposite side of the room. Between them, a holographic screen played the security footage from the classroom over and over again. The slap, Sarah's impossibly fast movement, Draken hitting the floor. Elder Kumath watched the footage for the 5th time, his telepathic voice thoughtful in their minds. "Fascinating. Dr. Chen, I have studied the physical capabilities of 47 species over my 400 years as headmaster. I have never seen a human move like that." With respect, headmaster, you've probably never seen a human who needed to move like that. Most humans you've met are diplomats or scientists, not someone who grew up in a dangerous neighborhood and learned to fight to stay safe. Not someone who spent 20 years studying martial arts. Not someone who competed in combat tournaments before becoming a teacher. His yellow eyes stared at Sarah with new understanding. You are a warrior. A warrior seeks combat. A martial artist seeks peace but is prepared for combat. On Earth, we have many fighting styles: Kung Fu, Karate, Judo, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and hundreds more. But the best teachers of these arts all say the same thing. The greatest victory is the fight you never have. Because sometimes, Sarah said quietly, looking directly at him, someone slaps you and you need to defend yourself without seriously hurting them. If I wanted to hurt you, Draken, you would be in the medical bay right now. Instead, you're sitting here, completely uninjured, learning something new. Compared to Kravix, humans are small and fragile. We don't have armor scales or poison glands or the ability to lift heavy objects easily. So we learn to be smart. We learn technique. We learn to use an opponent's strength against them. It tells your body to be ready, to pay attention, to move fast. Fear kept my ancestors alive when they faced predators much bigger and stronger than them. We learn to use fear instead of being controlled by it. Chen has refused to press charges. She says you were simply following your culture's traditions and did not understand human capabilities. Is this true? On my world, an elder would challenge me to combat to teach me humility. I am ready to accept punishment. You will also write an essay about human culture and present it to the academy. Do you accept? Finally, as the doors opened on the third floor, Draken spoke. Teacher Chen, would you teach me, not just history, teach me how you fight, how you move, please? Come to my classroom after school ends, she said. Bring anyone else who wants to learn, but understand this. I won't teach you to fight. I'll teach you why we learn not to fight unless necessary. Thank you, teacher. By the next morning, the entire academy was talking about Sarah. Students gathered in groups, watching the security footage on their tablets. Some were impressed, some were frightened, some were angry. In a dark corner of the library, 5 students sat together, watching the footage with cold eyes. The leader was a Cetharian named Vex. Cetharians looked like tall, thin humans, but their skin was pale blue and their eyes were completely black. They were famous across the galaxy for being master manipulators. Their species had never fought a war, but had destroyed dozens of civilizations through politics, economics, and careful planning. Vex watched Sarah put Draken on the floor and smiled a smile that never reached his eyes. Interesting, he said in his smooth, quiet voice. The human is more dangerous than we thought. She got lucky with Draken, we can take her. Which is why we won't fight her directly. We are not Kravix smashing everything with our fists. We are smarter than that. What are you planning, Vex? If she becomes popular, if students start respecting her, everything changes. We lose our power. Thousands of people attend, parents, government officials, news reporters from across the galaxy. I will arrange for the human to give a demonstration of her martial arts. And during that demonstration, we will make sure she fails, publicly, humiliatingly. We will prove that humans are weak frauds who simply got lucky. They came from a dozen different species, Kravix, Valdrines, even a few Cetharians. All of them wanted to learn about human martial arts. Draken stood at the front of the group. When he saw Sarah, he bowed. Teacher Chen, we wish to attend your. What is the word? Cultural session. Sarah stood in the middle and looked at all the curious faces watching her. Before we begin, she said, I need you to understand something. What I'm going to teach you is not about becoming a better fighter. It's about becoming a better person. On Earth, martial arts are called arts because they teach discipline, respect, and self-control. Does everyone understand? In through your nose, out through your mouth, slow and steady. If you can't control your body, you can't control your fighting. Everything starts with breath. Now sit. For 10 minutes, the classroom was silent except for the sound of breathing. Sarah walked among them, gently correcting posture, reminding them to relax their shoulders to focus. When the 10 minutes ended, several students looked surprised. That was calming, Draken said, his rumbling voice softer than usual. I have never felt my mind so quiet. It helps you make smart decisions instead of angry decisions. Tomorrow we'll add movement. But for now, just practice breathing, practice being calm, practice having control over yourself. But none of them noticed Yara, the Felixian, lurking in the hallway outside. She had recorded the entire session on a hidden device. She smiled her cat-like smile and sent the recording to Vex with a message. The human teaches them to sit and breathe. This will be easier than we thought. That night, Sarah sat in her small apartment near the academy, looking at Earth through the window. Home was so far away, 20 light years, a distance that seemed impossible even with faster-than-light travel. Her tablet buzzed with a message. It was from the Kravik ambassador, demanding her immediate termination for assaulting a student. There were already 3 similar messages from angry parents. Sarah sighed and typed a careful response, explaining what had happened, citing her right to self-defense under Galactic Council law, and providing the security footage. Then she opened her personal files and looked at an old photograph. A younger Sarah in a karate gi, standing with her teacher, Master Wang, who had taught her that martial arts were not about violence but about peace. I hope I'm doing this right, Master, she whispered to the photo. Her tablet buzzed again. This time it was from Elder Kumath. Dr. Chen, the Sports Festival Committee has requested that you give a demonstration of human martial arts at this year's festival. It would be an honor to our first human teacher. Will you accept? Thank you for the honor. He assumed that because humans were new to space, they were naive. He didn't understand that humans had spent thousands of years learning to recognize traps, and Sarah Chen had survived far more dangerous situations than a school full of alien bullies. The real lesson was about to begin. 3 weeks passed quickly at Zenith Academy. Every day after school, Sarah's classroom filled with students eager to learn. What started with 30 students grew to 50, then 70. Students came from every species, every background, every year of study. Draken became Sarah's most dedicated student. The massive Kravik warrior attended every session, practiced breathing exercises before bed, and even started mediating conflicts between students instead of fighting. His friends noticed the change and were curious. "You're becoming soft," one of them teased. Draken smiled calmly. "No, I'm becoming strong in a different way. Teacher Chen says true strength is choosing not to fight when you could win easily. That takes more discipline than any battle." News reporters asked for interviews. Scientists wanted to study human martial arts. The Galactic Council even sent observers to watch her teaching methods. But Sarah noticed something strange. Every few days, equipment in her classroom would malfunction. Lights would flicker, the floor panels would become loose, climate control would shut off randomly. The maintenance team fixed everything quickly, always apologizing and saying it was just bad luck. Sarah didn't believe in that much bad luck. She started arriving early and staying late, checking the room carefully. She noticed tiny marks on equipment panels, signs that someone had been tampering with the systems. Someone was trying to make her classes dangerous. She said nothing. Instead, she watched and waited. The Galactic Sports Festival arrived on a bright morning. The Academy's main arena had been transformed into a spectacular venue. Holographic banners floated in the air, displaying the flags of 47 different species. Thousands of seats surrounded a massive central floor where students would compete in various events, strength competitions, speed races, strategy games, and cultural demonstrations. In the VIP section, parents and government officials gathered. Ambassadors wore their finest ceremonial clothing. News drones floated everywhere, recording everything for broadcast across the galaxy. Sarah stood backstage, wearing a traditional white karate gi with a black belt tied around her waist. She had brought the uniform from Earth specifically for this demonstration. The simple cotton cloth felt comfortable and familiar, like wearing a piece of home. Elder Komath floated beside her, his body glowing with excitement. "Doctor Chen, there are over 5,000 spectators today, and millions more watching on broadcasts. This is a wonderful opportunity to show the galaxy what humans can teach us." She noticed several students from Vex's group moving between equipment stations, whispering to technicians, checking tablets. They were up to something. "You could never disappoint us," the headmaster said warmly. "You have already changed this academy for the better. Bullying incidents are down 70% since you arrived. Students are calmer, more focused. Whatever you do today, know that you have already succeeded." The festival began with great fanfare. Students competed in various events while the crowd cheered. Crix won the strength competition, lifting a weight equivalent to 3 tons. A Valdrine student won the speed race, moving so fast she was almost invisible. The strategy games produced clever solutions that impressed the judges. Finally, it was time for the cultural demonstrations. The announcer's voice boomed across the arena. "And now, a very special presentation. For the first time in galactic history, we have a human teacher at Zenith Academy. Dr. Sarah Chen will demonstrate the ancient Earth practice of martial arts. Please welcome her to the arena." The arena was enormous, at least 200 feet across. The floor was made of a smooth, energy-absorbent material designed to prevent injuries during competitions. Sarah bowed to the audience, then turned to face the center of the arena. "Thank you all for coming," she said, her voice amplified by floating microphones. "Today I will show you some basic principles of Earth martial arts. These practices are thousands of years old and teach discipline, respect, and self-control." Beside him, a Cetharian diplomat smiled coldly. Vex's father, who had paid a lot of money to ensure today's demonstration, would go exactly as planned. Sarah began with kata, a series of formal movements that looked like a dance. She moved slowly and precisely, each motion flowing into the next. Punch, block, kick, turn, strike. Her movements were graceful and controlled, demonstrating perfect balance and body awareness. The audience watched with mild interest, but some looked confused. This didn't look like fighting, it looked like slow-motion dancing. "This is called kata," Sarah explained as she moved. "It teaches muscle memory, balance, and focus. Every movement has a purpose. Every position protects a vital area of the body while preparing for the next action." "Now," Sarah said, "I'll need some volunteers to demonstrate practical applications." They would claim it was part of the demonstration, but they would hit hard enough to hurt her, to make her look weak and foolish. The 5 students jumped onto the arena floor, surrounding Sarah. The crowd murmured with interest. This looked more exciting. But Sarah saw immediately that something was wrong. These students weren't positioned like volunteers. They were positioned like attackers, spread out to prevent escape, moving with coordinated precision. Her eyes narrowed slightly. So this was the trap. "Thank you for volunteering," she said calmly. "Who wants to go first?" Then she simply stepped to the side, grabbed one of Crix's wrists, and used his own momentum to send him stumbling past her. He crashed into another volunteer, and both went down in a tangle of limbs. The crowd roared with excitement. The other 3 attacked together. Sarah moved like water flowing between their strikes, never in the same place when a punch or kick arrived. She didn't hit back. She just evaded, redirected, and controlled. Every attack missed. Every volunteer ended up off balance, confused, frustrated. "This is called defense," Sarah said calmly, even as she dodged a kick aimed at her ribs. Martial arts teach you that the best fight is one where nobody gets hurt. I could break bones. I could choke these volunteers unconscious. But why? They're just students like all of you. They deserve to learn, not to suffer. Sarah had thrown him using only his own grabbing force and her hip as a pivot point. The crowd was on their feet now, cheering wildly. Backstage, Vex watched with growing anger. This wasn't going according to plan. The volunteers were supposed to overwhelm her to prove humans were weak. Instead, she was making them look like children. "Activate Plan B," he hissed into his communicator. Suddenly, warning alarms blared throughout the arena. The floor beneath Sarah began to shift and crack. Energy panels that were supposed to be stable started sparking and collapsing. The rigged equipment was activating all at once, not just to make Sarah look bad, but to actually hurt her. But Vex had made a critical mistake. He had positioned the malfunctions to trap Sarah in the center. He didn't account for the 5 volunteers also being in the danger zone. Sarah saw the floor collapsing, saw energy conduits exploding toward the volunteers who were struggling to stand up. In that split second, she had a choice: save herself or save the students who had just attacked her. She didn't hesitate. Sarah moved faster than anyone had ever seen her move before. She grabbed the closest volunteer and threw him toward the safe zone at the edge of the arena. She caught another by the arm and pulled him away from a collapsing panel. She kicked a third student's legs out from under him, dropping him flat just as an energy beam passed through the space where his head had been. The crowd watched in stunned silence as Sarah moved through the chaos like a phantom. She was everywhere at once, pushing students to safety, catching falling debris, redirecting energy beams with precise strikes that shattered metal but left her hands unharmed. In the VIP section, the Kravik ambassador stood up, his eyes wide. "Impossible," he whispered. "No being can move that fast. No being can calculate danger and response that quickly." "When they must." Sarah looked up, calculated the trajectory, and made a decision that defied all logic. She ran toward the falling debris. The crowd screamed warnings, but Sarah didn't stop. She leaped, impossibly high for a human, and her fist struck the falling debris with a sound like thunder. The metal shattered into smaller pieces that scattered harmlessly instead of crushing anyone below. Sarah landed in a crouch, breathing hard. Around her, the 5 volunteers stared at her in absolute shock. She had just saved all of them, the same students who had attacked her. The arena fell completely silent. Then Draken stood up in the student section and began to clap, slowly, deliberately. The sound echoed through the quiet arena. One by one, other students stood and joined him, then teachers, then parents, then ambassadors and officials. Within seconds, the entire arena was on its feet, applauding with a sound like rolling thunder. Sarah stood up, bowed to the audience, and walked calmly off the arena floor. Her hands were scraped and bleeding. Her gi was torn and dirty, but her eyes were calm and clear. Backstage, security officers were already surrounding Vex and his group. The sabotage had been traced back to them within minutes. Vex's face was pale blue with fear as he was led away. Elder Komath approached Sarah with medical personnel. "Doctor. Chen, are you hurt?" "They made a mistake. That doesn't mean they deserve to die. On Earth, we have another saying: what you do to your enemy when you've won defines who you are. I chose to be a teacher, not a warrior. Chen, the Galactic Council has been watching this festival. They would like to speak with you. They have a proposal." Sarah sat on an examination table while a Valdrine doctor floated around her, scanning her injuries with beams of gentle light. "Remarkable," the doctor said in a telepathic voice. "Your bone density is normal for a human, yet you punch through reinforced metal. How is this possible? Our sensors clocked you moving at speed that should tear human muscles. We call it the fight or flight response. Every human has it. That's what martial arts teach: how to push your body to its limits safely. Sarah recognized them from her orientation. Council member Thex of the Kravik Empire, Council member Arya of the Valdrine Collective, and Council member Zen of the Cetharian Union. Sarah stood up quickly and bowed. Council members, this is unexpected. What we witnessed today at the festival has convinced us that humanity possesses unique wisdom the galaxy desperately needs. For 40,000 years, my people have believed that strength equals dominance. The strong rule, the weak serve. This is our way. But I watched you defeat 5 attackers without seriously injuring any of them. I watched you save the same students who tried to hurt you. This is not weakness. This is a strength we do not possess. Yet we watched a primitive human calculate danger and response faster than our best computers. You processed a collapsing arena, 5 endangered students, and falling debris in less than 3 seconds and saved everyone. How? Humans who survived long enough to have children were the ones who could think fast and act faster. Over hundreds of thousands of years, this became part of who we are. We're not the strongest species. We're not the smartest. But we're very good at surviving impossible situations. But what I really teach is philosophy, the way of thinking that makes these skills useful. Discipline, respect, knowing when to fight and when to walk away. Understanding that true strength is protecting others, not dominating them. We want you to develop a program, Humanity's Path, to be implemented at schools across council space. We want human teachers to share this philosophy with other species. The galaxy has forgotten that intelligence and strength can coexist peacefully. Will you help us remember? And I need to consult with other martial arts masters on Earth. This is too important to rush. Headmaster, Sarah said quietly, do you really think I can do this? You are one of the rare ones. Trust yourself. The next day, Sarah returned to her classroom expecting a normal lesson. Instead, she found every seat filled, with dozens more students sitting on the floor or standing along the walls. News of the festival had spread across the entire planet and everyone wanted to attend her class. Among the crowd, Sarah noticed Vex sitting in the back corner. He wasn't in handcuffs or under guard. He was just there, watching, waiting. Sarah felt a chill but said nothing. She began her lesson on ancient Greek philosophy, discussing Socrates and the idea that the unexamined life is not worth living. The students listened carefully, taking notes. After class, as students filed out, Vex remained in his seat. When the room was empty except for the 2 of them, he stood and walked slowly to the front. Teacher Chen, he said in his smooth, quiet voice, I owe you an apology. I sabotaged your equipment. I planted those students to attack you. I rigged the arena to collapse. I wanted to prove humans were weak frauds. Instead, you saved everyone, including the students I sent to hurt you. You could have let them die. No one would have blamed you. But you didn't. But you showed mercy and somehow you won. Everyone respects you now, even the council. How? Why? On Earth, Sarah began, there was a martial arts master named Jichin Funakoshi. He founded modern karate. One day, a young student asked him, Master, what is the most important technique in karate? Everyone expected him to name a powerful strike or a clever throw. Instead, he said, the most important technique is the one you never have to use. So the master explained, if you train hard enough, if you carry yourself with confidence and discipline, most people will never challenge you. You will avoid 100 fights simply by being someone who doesn't need to fight. And on the rare occasions when you must fight, your training will help you end it quickly and safely. The greatest victory is the fight that never happens. But power based on fear and manipulation is fragile. It only lasts as long as people are too scared to challenge you. Real power, the kind that lasts, comes from respect, from helping others, from making the world better than you found it. You have physical power. The students respect me not because I'm dangerous, but because I use that danger only to keep them safe. By Cytherian law, I should be executed. You made terrible choices, but you're here, asking questions, trying to understand. That means you can still learn. That means you can still change. On Earth, we believe in redemption, the idea that people can become better than they were. I want you to write an essay about why you tried to hurt me and what you've learned. And yes, I want you to learn martial arts, because maybe physical discipline will teach you the mental discipline you're missing. I don't deserve this mercy. That afternoon, Sarah's after-school martial arts session had a surprise addition. Vex arrived wearing simple training clothes, his usual arrogant expression replaced with uncertainty. Draken saw him and immediately moved to block his path. You tried to kill Teacher Chen. You're not welcome here. That people can change. He kept trying. Then came the physical practice. Sarah taught them a basic blocking technique, showing how to deflect an attack instead of meeting it with force. Efficiency is everything, she explained. Don't waste energy. Use your opponent's momentum against them. This works for fighting, but also for life. When someone attacks you with angry words, you don't have to attack back. You can deflect, redirect, and stay calm. When she reached Vex, she found him partnered with Draken. The massive Kravik was deliberately going slow, clearly not trusting the Cytherian. Draken, Sarah said gently, he can't learn if you don't challenge him properly. Trust the technique. He threw a proper punch, faster and stronger. Vex tried to block but did it wrong and got hit in the shoulder. He stumbled back, shocked. Again, Sarah said. You moved too late, Vex. Feel the attack coming. Anticipate. Trust your instincts. And again. Slowly, Vex began to understand not just the physical technique but the philosophy behind it. Timing, patience, letting go of ego and fear. By the end of the session, Vex was exhausted, sweating, and frustrated. But he was also different somehow. Quieter. More thoughtful. As students left, Vex approached Sarah one more time. Teacher, he said softly, I still don't understand why you're helping me. Especially then.